to start today by sharing a story with you. It's a story about me, about my family, and essentially about my mother. Imagine with me a heroic, beautiful woman living in the 70s in Vietnam. Now, the 70s in Vietnam was a very interesting place to be. It's not safe, it's chaotic, post-war turmoil. You can imagine it. Your ability to chase your dreams are gone. The ability to own your own business is gone. And the ability to control your own destiny is not present either. Personal freedom, human rights, and even basic shopping is not allowed. And so my mom had a dream, a vision, an ideal, a seed, if you will, of bringing her family to America for safety. She wanted them to have opportunity, and she wanted her 5-year-old little girl to have more opportunity so that she can blossom in the land of opportunity. So if you will, take this journey with me and imagine what it must have been like for her at that time through her decision process of saying, yes, I want to go. Well, let's look at travel options. It wasn't like she can go to the travel agent or go to the airlines and say, hey, I want a ticket to America. Can you hook me up? She had the money, it just wasn't possible. Her only viable option at the time was to take a boat. And we're not talking about Carnival cruise lines. You're not going to get a massage. You're not going to get a foot massage, reflexology. None of that. It was a shady operation at best. The boat was small, and it was in the black market. It was illegal. So holy smokes, she was going to make the decision to leave the country to be an illegal person, essentially a refugee. She was going to give up her rights. So I invite you to embellish with me just part of that decision-making process in terms of looking at your own decision-making process and the way that you go about doing so. What must she have gone through? She must have gone through a lot of what-ifs in her mind. Okay, I'm embarking on this journey. I have no idea where it's going to go. They say it's going to land in America. That's what Christopher Columbus thought too. Well, what if the boat sinks? What if we don't make it? What if my child gets a high fever and dies on the boat? What if I'm a woman, I'm taking 2 children, actually 3 children, 3 girls, and my mother. What if we get raped? Or worse, what if we get caught and we get sent back and therefore we are thrown in jail? What if we're incarcerated? I can only imagine the nights that she spent deciding, pining over this. Should I go? Should I not go? Should I go? Should I not go? And how many times in our decision-making process, especially if it's a major decision, do we do that here, right now? You know, I can imagine she saying, yes, let's go one day, had her money ready to go to the shady guy, the boat guy. And then as she got there, she goes, no, he's too shady, I'm not doing it. And she goes back and probably tries to resolve, oh, it's not so bad, I can do this. And then she went back the next day and she said, okay, that's it, I'm doing it. I'm giving him the money. I'm going to get on the boat and I'm going to go. And so she went back and forth. She must have cried herself to sleep dozens of nights. Well, the communists took over in 75 and we didn't leave until 79. So for that span of time, she went back and forth and back and forth. So it's a risk. And in that seed, that thought of taking her family to America so that it can blossom and bloom, it's not considered a breakthrough or a revelation or a firm decision until there's a commitment to action. And even if you think you're committed, you're not there until you actually say, yes, I'm stepping onto that boat and I'm going. So that's the story of my mother. And it's a story of faith. Jesus teaches us about faith in parables. And so parables are are short stories with a deeper spiritual meaning. And they are taught by Jesus to his disciples because short stories actually sell. Stories paint a picture. They're easier to remember, and therefore they're easier to retell. We know that they're really important because just about a third of what Jesus says in the Bible is recorded in the Synoptic Gospels in the form of a parable. And so today, what I'd like to do is to take a look at the parable of the mustard seed. And I'm going to tell the story. It's in Matthew 13, 31, 32. And the parable of the mustard seed is pretty much this. Jesus teaches us that the kingdom of heaven is like the size of a mustard seed, so that when it's sown in a field, it grows not just to a shrub, but has the potential to grow into a tree, so much so that the birds in the air can come and make nests onto its branches. So a quick interpretation of that. It's about faith. So the traditional interpretation is, with faith, anything is possible with faith through God. And so I looked and I dug some more into the metaphysical definition of this. The Revealing Word, the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, written by our co-founder Charles Fillmore, says that mustard seeds, and I'm going to just recap because it's way too long. Mustard seeds represent a small thought of truth. Trees are expressions, and birds represent higher consciousness. So you have small thoughts of truth planted, can grow into thoughts, into higher consciousness. And so let me tell you what Charles Fillmore said in Dynamics of Living. In Dynamics of Living, Charles Fillmore, the co-founder, thank you, Lonnie, the co-founder of Unity says, consciousness is the sense of awareness, of knowing. It is our knowing that we know. The ideas that are held in mind are the basis of all consciousness. And so in Unity, we throw that word around a lot. Consciousness, awareness. What is consciousness? Consciousness is being present to the here and now. Another word for consciousness is mindfulness. So to be mindful of something is to be aware, your whole body and mind, of the present situation of what is. It is opposite of being absent-minded or simply being on autopilot. So you're actually bringing a state of mind to the present situation. It is observing and releasing habits of mind that keep you from feeling whole, from feeling separation. It's a moment-to-moment choice. And if we don't do it intentionally, if we don't say, I'm going to be mindful at every moment, essentially, we're not. In other words, we're not present. And so in every breath, in every heartbeat, in every blink of an eye, we have this unique opportunity in every moment to be mindful. So I want to do a really quick experiment. So I would invite you to, if you're willing, to look at the person next to you. Or if it's more comfortable, you can look around the room. Just really quickly, let's do that experiment together. Okay, and when you're ready to come back to me. And now this time, before you look at the person, I invite you to take a deep breath and imagine the Christ within of that person. See that person's divine light. See the divinity within. And when you're ready, either look at the same person or look around the room and see if there's a difference. And so we brought in a little bit of intention with the mindfulness. And it changes everything. It changes the trajectory of where we're taking our intention. And in our decision-making process, mindfulness is but one part of it. The other part I wanted to share with you in the decision-making process is heaven itself, because we're relating back to the parable of the mustard seed. So the idea of heaven. Some traditional Christian paths believe that heaven is a place that you go to after you're done with your physical body. It's a place made of pure gold, and you actually go home to where God is. What I believe is that heaven is in the here and the now. It's not a geographic location, but it's a state of mind. It's a state of being. It's a choice that we get to make over and over and over again. And so in every moment, we get the choice. We get to make the decision if we would rather live heaven or if we would rather live hell. And so if we choose heaven, then we can choose to live in joy, in peace, in abundance, in comfort, in love, in expression. If we choose to live hell, and maybe nobody ever actually chooses to live hell, but maybe it's just not a state of awareness that they're in, we can be in the story, in the lack, in the blame, in the scarcity, in the fear, in the jealousy, and so forth. Yes? Can I get an amen? Thank you. So heaven then becomes a mindful consciousness. A mindful consciousness. It's a state of mind in which we come from. And so we go back to the process of growth, because that's in fact what we're talking about. What's the process of growth for a seed? Well, for a seed to grow, it must grow. For a seed to blossom forward, it must grow. And not just simply grow, but grow and break through the confines of its environment. It must spring forward. And so as we outgrow our barriers, we have this unique opportunity to be with it, to breathe it in, to feel the growth itself. And sometimes it's not so comfortable. I have a really great friend who shared with me an acronym for growth, and that is to be in a FOG, F-O-G, which stands for Fabulous Opportunity for Growth. So if you're ever walking around in a fog, you can celebrate, because it just means that you're growing. And in those situations where we're uncomfortable as we're growing, our typical reaction is to flinch, to move away, to blame, to criticize, to judge. It's typical. It's human nature. We demonize it. We make it our villain. Yes? However, we are also here at Unity Village. We're truth students, we're ministers, and so our job here is to heal and transform this process, because we have said yes. We've said yes to Spirit, and we've said yes to God. And so to know God is to know what those demons are like. Demons such as disappointment, resentment, anger, irritation, jealousy, fear, shame. But rather than demons, we can actually look at them as consciousness moments, at actual precious gems, those moments in the crevasses of humanity where they can actually help us see where we're holding back and where we still have room to grow. It's a really beautiful process when I'm not directly in it. I know, right? We all say that. Eckhart Tolle, spiritual teacher, tells us to say yes. He says, what could be more futile, more insane than to create inner resistance to what already is? In other words, he's telling us to be with it. What could be more insane than to oppose life itself, which is now and always now? In other words, to be in the moment. Surrender to what is. Say yes to life, and see how life suddenly starts working for you rather than against you. Beautiful. So each day we're given many opportunities to either open up or to shut down. We either embrace what is or we push it away. It's our choice. And like the seed, we either grow and break through or we stay buried in the ground. And so, I want to consider the seed and its protective coating. The seed has a protective coating, and so for the winter or in times of drought, it keeps it from freezing and it keeps it from drying up. And it keeps it from all the perils that a seed might go through. And we as human beings have our own self-imposed protective coating. Some of us like to call it our comfort zone. But there comes a time when there's fertile ground. There comes a time, say spring, when the sun is out and it's warm and the conditions are right and the soil is ready, that the seed comes blossoming forward. And what I'm suggesting is that the warmth is spirit itself, pulling and tugging us forward, asking us to blossom. And the Spirit is always, always asking us to realize our potential, to break through our seed, and to move toward the light. And so the Spirit is the warmth in us, asking of us to answer the call, knocking on our door. It's asking us to break through our own shell, to, like my mother, take that decision and step onto the boat, step onto the journey of this wonderful awakening. And so what we must do now is to realize our potential, to embrace the warmth, to say yes to Spirit, and to allow ourselves to break through that coating. So my question for you is, what is your potential? What are you currently contemplating with, going back and forth perhaps? What is your dream, your ideal, and your vision? Are you ready to feel the warmth? Are you ready to step onto the boat? Are you ready for the sunlight to pull you forward? Spirit is calling you, calling each and every single one of us by name to spring forward. And so my invitation to you is to embrace that, to feel the warmth, to break through your shell, and to follow the light. Thank you.